So uttanasana is one of our most frequented postures. So it's something that we come across all the time in our asana practice. So how do we do it and how do we get there? It really is, it's a deep forward fold. We're going to lift through the hips, lengthen through the back body in order to eventually get our head towards our toes. So some lofty ideals or lofty goals there, but something that we can all work towards. So how do we get there? Let's come to the center of our mats and we're going to find our Tadasana. So our lovely base pose for everything that we do in our practice, grounding down and feeling that connection to the earth. So I've got a slight gap between my heels here. I've spread my toes and I'm pressing the toes down in there. You can check your Pada Bandha, anything that is working for you here. So there's a couple of things you can do with the hands. If we're in a hatha practice, to get to our deep forward fold, we'd have the arms forward, and I will show you that variation. In our Ashtanga practice, we keep the hands at the heart center and we hinge forward. So we're going to bring the hands to heart center to start with. And as we lift up, what I want you to start doing is, we have that anterior tilt of the pelvis. So this is going to enable us to fold forward. So we want to hinge forward at the hips. So it may even help, for the purpose of this exercise, to bring the hands to the hip crease here. And then start to feel where you're actually folding forward. So you want to continue to look forward and find that length starting to lengthen through the back body already. And you can see what happens is your hips start to hinge back. They create a counterbalance to enable you to go forward. So you take an inhale breath, and on that exhale breath is when you want to hinge all the way forward and eventually drop the hands down towards the earth. Now, if your hands don't meet the earth, the hands can come to the shins, perfectly fine. What we do want to do in this posture, you can even bend the legs until the hands come down to the earth. What we do want to do in this posture is feel that connection of the tummy to the thighs, because eventually, like, the tummy and the thighs become best friends. They never leave each other, and you find yourself glued to the legs. And you can eventually bring the hands, palms back in line with the toes, and you can feel the body weight here. You can transfer that body weight, and you'll notice that what happens is when you take the body weight further forward into the front or the ball of the foot, you can start to lift the hips a little bit higher. And this is why it's important to find that sandwich and that length in the pressure between the belly and the thighs, that like squish that jam sandwich together, eventually dropping the head and straightening through the legs. So you're really driving the crown of the head down towards the earth, lengthening through the back body. So if this isn't available to you, bending in the knees is perfectly acceptable. What we do want to get to is a point where the head is relaxed. So you can take this variation where you've got slightly wider stance with the feet, so the feet are hip width apart, bend into the legs. And what happens here is when you bend into the legs, you have that opportunity to lift the hips. So you can see that I start to lift my hips, which is creating that extension through the hamstring here. So as I lift, and it creates a little arch in my back, allowing my head to hang heavy. So take as much bend in the knees as you like here, and you can come into ragdoll. So ragdoll's a really great posture for relaxing the neck and finding some length in the back body. So again, you can test your balance out here and find that center, and you can test that lovely hanging, just feeling there and then feeling that sway from side to side. And what this does is gives you a little bit of a stretch in the QL, which is your quadratus lumborum, runs either side of the spine. So it gives you a little stretch there. It's an inversion, so you get all those lovely benefits of the inversion. You can take a deep sigh, bring the hands back to the earth, walk the toes together, bend into the knees, and you can roll all the way up through the back body. Important to look after the back here and honour your practice wherever you are in your practice today, protecting the lower back by engaging the core. So in our hatha practice, when we practice our uttanasana or forward fold, we take the arms up over the head, And I haven't got my hands palms pressed together, but I've got my hands at shoulder width. So gazing up towards the fingertips as I reach towards the sky. Now I've already turned my Pada Bandha on here. I'm going to release my toes back down to the earth. As I inhale, I'm going to lift the chest. I'm going to start that hinging forward, but reaching forward with the hands, eventually reaching as far forward on the mat as I possibly can, creating that length through the back body, and then eventually bringing my head down towards my shins here. So a slightly different approach, and it does create that sensation of length. And once you, I'm just going to come back up for a moment. If you inhale and you've lengthened through the body here, you start to hinge forward at the hips, and you're going to extend, 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 extend until you can't extend any further, and you do start to feel that lovely extension through the back here. And eventually, to come into this posture, you can bend your knees and still find that same middle ground here until you are able to work that extension through the hamstrings of finding that deep forward fold here. Coming up, you can come out the same way you went in, reaching all the way forward. You'll really need to engage the core here. So draw the tummy into the spine, finding that lift, tucking the hips as you draw all the way up to your Tadasana, that lovely grounded posture, bringing the hands to heart center and allowing the hands to drop by the side body. So that is our uttanasana. It is quite a deep forward fold, and it's part of our sun salutations. So work with your body until you start warming up. Don't expect that you're going to sandwich the body to the thighs, when you're in round one of your sun salutation. Like sometimes that might happen, sometimes it's weather dependent and time of the day. So if you're practicing earlier in the morning and it's a little bit cooler and the body and the joints haven't warmed up yet, don't get all angry at yourself or punish yourself for not being there when you were there yesterday. Maybe yesterday you practiced at 5 p.m. and you've been walking around all day and you've been busy, and so the joints were already well lubricated and warmed up when you got there. So all of these different things can have an impact on how your practice runs for the time that you're spending on your mat. So cooler weather, warmer weather, are you practicing in the AM, are you practicing in the PM, have you had a coffee, have you not? All of those things impact the quality of your practice. So again, just be kind to the self and use that as part of your warm-up and work through it. Stay a little bit longer in your uttanasana. You can get the fingers gripped around the toes and use that to pull down. And we'll talk about that in another tutorial. But we will see you on the next one.